All right, so let's talk about the Super Bowl here. It's not going to be super long because this is a Giants podcast, not a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. But our NFC East rivals did end up losing the 2023, or I guess Super Bowl 57, whatever you want to say. Super Bowl, great stuff. James
Lovely.
Bradbury actually getting a controversial call late in the game kind of helped helping to set up Harrison Butker's game-winning field goal. That was a toss-up. People were calling it the worst call ever. Such a bad call, blah, blah, blah. The Eagles lost. That's all we care about here as Giants fans. So very exciting stuff. And Kadarius Toney putting up MVP numbers, not getting awarded the MVP, but putting up the numbers to at least get put in the conversation. I think he was probably second behind Patrick Mahomes if they were to choose. But you obviously got to give it to the quarterback there. And Patrick Mahomes played a heck of a football game, so it's not like there's any debate there. So, yeah, I mean, Alex, do you have anything to say about the game?
I have a lot to say. What I will say first of all is that penalty, that holding call was definitely a holding call. You look at the back angle, he's grabbing a fistful of his shirt. James Bradbury actually admits it after the game that it was a hold. It was a hold, all right? Like, I don't want to hear, I know all these Eagles fans are crying. I'm sorry. It's devastating. Eli Manning still has more Super Bowls than your entire franchise. But you can't blame one call for your defense not being able to stop Patty Mahomes. And it was really great quarterback play from him all day. I'll give, as much as this is difficult for me to do, Jalen Hurts had a hell of a game as well. He was really, really good last night as well. So I was impressed with him. Obviously, he couldn't get it done, but that wasn't really his fault. In terms of offense, they put up 35 points. When you put up 35 points, you usually expect to win. So, defensively, obviously, we're going to talk about Jonathan Gannon a little bit later on when we talk about, the head coaching vacancy at Arizona. But he didn't do the best of jobs last night. But to be honest, some of it was just out of his control. Pat Mahomes is just so good. Even running out of the pocket, probably on a high ankle sprain or whatever he was with during halftime. God knows what they did to his leg during halftime. I don't even want to know. But he was just really, really impressive. And it's not like he has Tyreek Hill anymore. He's got that Travis Kelce as that big main target. But Kelce in the second half, I don't even think he got targeted. Maybe once or twice, maybe had one or two catches. But in the second half, he was utilizing guys like Juju, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, obviously, Jerick McKinnon, and Pacheco obviously also had influences out of the backfield. But it wasn't really much wasn't really like the Pat Mahomes Travis Kelce show in the second half where they really started to put it all together. Obviously, the Eagles were double, triple, quadruple, quintuple teaming Travis Kelce, so that was part of it. But overall, it was really impressive. I'm not one of those guys who's like, he's going to catch up to Tom Brady in the GOAT discussion, but I think at this point, top five is like the floor going forward, as a top quarterback. Because, you look at the insane talent that he has. In the beginning of every season, we always kind of talk about, oh, maybe Josh Allen, maybe Lamar Jackson, not really Lamar Jackson as much recently, maybe Joe Burrow, maybe Justin Herbert. Those guys are just not at the level of Mahomes, to be honest. I think there's such a huge gap between Mahomes and the next guys. It's actually quite starking. But yeah, I was super happy with the Eagles win. Really nervous that they were going to win. Josh and I watched it together. We were both really nervous that they were going to win. But it was a good night to be a Giants fan. And Joe Shane masterclass here with Kadarius Toney, sending Kadarius Toney to defeat the Eagles, letting go of James Bradbury because he'll just do a call. He's a secret agent for the Giants. Little holding call at the end. Beautiful things you love to see. And Philly still only has one lucky ring.
Yeah, and I mean, just alluding to your point, it's just Patrick Mahomes. You give that guy any time whatsoever, he will take advantage of it in the best way possible to help his team out. And that's exactly what the Eagles team did. And I know you said we're going to talk about the Eagles defensive coordinator later, but we can talk about the Eagles defense right now while we're recapping this. Going to this game, it was the Eagles defense is the best in the NFL. They've had the most sacks or whatever it was all time throughout this season. They're trying to set a record against like the old Bears. And what we saw in this game was an atrocious defense that just could not stop Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs put up 38 points in that game. And I'm not, giving all this bad talk towards the Eagles' way. I'm not saying like, oh my God, their defense is trash. I think it just showed more how good the Chiefs offense and Mahomes is compared to how great this Eagles defense was. And don't get me wrong, the Eagles had a hell of a run this season. For us, Alex and I, to believe that the Eagles were going to win in the Super Bowl shows how good of a season that they had. We were nervous as hell going into this game, but Mahomes just showed that he is him. He is the better player, and he can defeat your entire defense, whether they are trying to set records in sacks or not. But it really is crazy how going into this game, we were talking about the defense is going to be the facilitator. You know, is it going to be that Mahomes is able to cook and move the ball down the field, or will the Eagles defense shut him down and he'll be throwing pick after pick or, you know, fumbling the ball? We'll have to wait and see. And the Eagles defense just didn't stand a chance. After all of that, after that amazing season, after shutting Daniel Jones and that offense down, you're playing against a four string in a, you know, in a game with against the 49ers. I mean, it also, and that might have just showed how easy of a playoff run the Eagles had but they were able to hold up against this team. So I don't even want to say that the Chiefs.
No, it was a close game, right? I think the key difference.
No, they definitely deserved to be there. They were a very special team this year.
Yeah, and you got to give credit to that offensive line of the Chiefs as well. Joe Tooney in the inside, Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown at left tackle held up really well. You know, those guys really, really did a good job. Pat Mahomes wasn't sacked all night, even with his lack of mobility somewhat, obviously, because he still ran for like 30 yards in the second half. But his lack of mobility, you could say, in the second half, and they were able to keep him upright. So certainly impressive there from the Chiefs offensive line. And their defense came up big as well, especially their corners, you know, on the non-huge 50-plus yard bombs that they gave up. But besides that, they were able to make a few key stops, right? Neither defense played well, but the Chiefs defense was able to get a couple of stops when it really mattered.